Yo guys, welcome to the Zelda fiction. Today we are gonna see, what if Naruto becomes the greater ninja assassin? Part 2. If you end up liking this video, please consider subscribe, so without further ado, let's get into the video. Naruto was visibly tense the rest of the night, though he tried to be cheerful. His offer to take Kiba shopping with Shino and him on their next trip gained him a brotherly head rub from the boy, which made the blonde squirm. However, when they left, both Tsume and Hana apologized for their actions, stating they were nervous about an unknown shinobi being near their relative, though their fears were assuaged, and that they were wrong in doubting him. Naruto felt there was something else, another reason perhaps, but let it go with a stiff smile and a slightly relaxed manner. After a final cuddle with Akamaru, who seemed determined to make the boy feel welcomed even if his partner's family screwed up, they left. The next morning the group of genin and one dog met Kakashi at the training ground, this time the man running only an hour late and catching Naruto in mid-spar against Akamaru and Kiba. The boy's hits were sharp and evasive, his body dipping and twisting as his legs shot up and connected in hitting the joints, before his hands came in and punched in quick combinations. The attacking style was short, efficient, and brutal. It heavily supporting his attack and escape mentality of fighting. Incredibly useful for a trap artist or assassin when the point was to kill the prey, rather than capture or beat it into submission. A sharp series of punches at a few weak spots, and one of the few joint locks the style had lead into a full-on pinning that had Kakashi's eyebrow arching in amazement and approval. The boy certainly knew how to use his smaller frame against his opponents, it appeared. Ah, Kiba grumbled as Naruto shoved his face into the ground, trapping one arm under his body and another with his right hand, twisting it back and up. His knees dug painfully into the back of the bigger male's thighs, and he shivered a touch when he felt the kiss of Naruto's kakute at his neck. I thought we said no weapons. Shino shook his head from where he waited next to a panting and exhausted Akamaru, the training and sparring a bit much for the young hound. No, Shino corrected, we said no projectiles, blades or rope-like objects. Naruto's kakute do not count as any of those things. If anything, it isn't a weapon and more of a tool. You're a tool. The boy spat out as Naruto finally released him and got off. Akamaru gave a doggy snicker from his place, earning a petulant pout from his best friend. Akamaru, you're supposed to be on my side, Kiba whined as he massaged his shoulders and arms to loosen them. They ached from the blows and pin, Naruto having positioned them so no response could be easily made. The guy was surprisingly strong for someone so damn short, Kiba thought as he finally got to his feet. Sorry, Kiba-kun, Naruto said apologetically, but I'm trained to kill, not incapacitate like you are. There's a difference. The boy grumbled and Naruto nodded, taking the question seriously. Your clan is a group of skilled trackers, no doubt meant to go out, find and capture individuals. The kills are largely done by a long-distance opponent and your fighting style used as a way of defending against a larger group of attackers or if your prey has reinforcements. Naruto said firmly. Kiba grumbled but didn't disagree. It sounded a lot like what his mother would say during training. While your clan's fighting style is impressive, against someone trained to kill within 3 blows, a drawn-out battle is unfortunate for the both of us. I'm not meant for forward confrontation mostly, unlike you, Kiba-kun. Your attacks require groups unlike I who would be working alone or with little backup. He has also been trained in his fighting style a bit longer, Shino said, supporting his friend and reassuring his teammate. Your clan starts your training at 9, right? Kiba nodded. That's when they were deemed large enough and strong enough to learn the fighting, since it was riskier than many others due to its brutal nature. Before that was lots of stamina and strength training, not that they stopped that, it got heavier and even more exhausting. Shino merely pushed his glasses thoughtfully up. Naruto and I both started 2 years earlier at 7, so we probably have a year and a half on you at least. Though I can't match you in strength, Naruto is merely a nightmare with his stamina and strength being so high. Mother says it is probably due to a bloodline, though we can't be sure since he's an orphan. Kakashi silently and mentally applauded Saki-senpai's excuse and finally caught his genin's attention. Yo, he said as he joined them, taking in their appearance. None of them looked too battered, so it would be easy to get on with doing missions. Hello sensei, Naruto said, greeting him with one of his usual polite bows. I hope you are well. The jounin gave him an eye smile and nodded. Sup, Kakashi-sensei, Kiba said, clambering to his feet, Akamaru taking his usual position on the boy's head. Shino joined the 4 of them seconds later. I was thinking about taking you on your first mission since we started you on your exercises, Kakashi said. What kind of missions, sensei? Naruto asked. At our skill level, I highly doubt we'll be doing anything too advanced. Naruto remembered Iruka-sensei's lecture on mission levels and discussion both he and Shino got after helping catch Mizuki. That reminded him and he blinked. Oh yes, Naruto said, glancing at Shino in embarrassment. The other boy seemed to remember at the same time and adjusted his glasses in equal discomfort. Shino, and I completed a high B rank mission before we met you. Kakashi and Kiba both blinked. The words seemed to sink in faster with Kiba because he reacted first. What? Their teammate yelled in surprise. A B rank what? How? Shino forced his Kakachu down, and the dog user flinched when he heard the irritated buzzing, instantly quieting himself. Sorry, he said sheepishly. Care to explain? Kakashi asked, annoyed that he didn't know this tidbit. The night we earned our hit I-8, Shino and I were training out on training field 86, the training field that's near the West Forest and not used often. Kakashi nodded knowing the training field they'd mentioned. While there, the traitor Mizuki came charging into the clearing we were using with Yamino-sensei on his tail in mid-fight. Apparently Mizuki had stolen something of value to the village and was taking it to someone on the outside. Kakashi stared at them. They weren't done and Shino picked up the next part of the story. While there Naruto and I incapacitated him and held him until Anbu arrived. Iruka-sensei suffered mild injuries that Naruto treated. We then reported to the Hokage and were debriefed. Shino finished. They're still deciding on how to reward us. There was mention of jutsu scrolls or payment via some more advanced tools that are unavailable at our current level. Both seemed a bit pleased at that. How did you tie him up? How did the fight go? Kiba asked, not too interested in the rewards. The fight was the best part and they totally glossed over it. Naruto distracted him with Kage Bushin no Jutsu while layering a trap net around him. Iruka-sensei accidentally taunted the man into attacking him, thus luring him into the net. While the man was held tight in Naruto's wires, I released my Kakachu on him. He fainted from chakra exhaustion and Naruto proceeded to tying him up with his Hojujutsu. That one bird Anbu said Naruto was particularly skillful at it. The boy blushed. Kakashi, however, nodded and made a note to speak with Yumi no Iruka and the Anbu on the team to get further details. Sorry about forgetting, we meant to tell you immediately, but the bell test and training exercises had it slipping from our minds, Naruto said apologetically. Well, Kakashi said with a sigh, you won't be doing any B ranks until you're more experienced genin or, in the most likely case, chunin. That is, unless one of the missions is misclassified and goes up in difficulty. That is not overly common, however, he grimaced here, there seems to be a tradition where the first C rank for any group, no matter what, always goes wrong somehow. If it does do that, we will cross that bridge when it happens. Are we starting off on C ranks? Kiba asked. The sensei shook his head however. No, to qualify for a C rank you need a minimum of 2 months of D ranks and at least 12 D rank missions at that. We'll be doing missions every Monday and Wednesday. Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday will be team exercises and training. Saturdays we'll work on group dynamics, such as strategy and teaching trips if we can manage. Sundays are your own. The trio of genin and one puppy nodded. Good, then we'll head to the Hokage's tower and see the mission desk about getting you the first of your missions. They won't be exciting though, if anything they'll seem more like chores. They are, however, to give you time to get used to your team and to remind you of who you're defending and dedicating your lives to. With that the Jounin led them away. They had missions to start. Sasuke and Hinata stood in front of their sensei, while Sakura sulked on the edge, her pink hair pinned up and out of the way, and her clothing forcibly changed to something better suited for a shinobi. On was the bright red dress and in their place were knee-length dark chocolate-colored tights, a dark forest green dress with brown bandage wrapped tightly around her neck, upper arms and her waist to keep the dress from catching on anything. While Kurenai wore her white bandage dress regularly, her mission outfits were drastically different when she went outside the village and she wasn't going to let anyone on her team die just because they wanted to look pretty and girly. Hello, Hokage-sama, Kurenai said, we're here for our first mission. The stately man nodded and glanced at Yumi no Iruka, who was sorting through a selection of D ranks. Before they could be assigned one, Kakashi and his team joined them. Hello, Hokage, the silver-haired Jounin said cheerfully, Team 7 reporting for duty and a mission. His genin lined up neatly next to him, though one stood rather relaxed-like, until his partner nudged him slightly forcing him to straighten. Ah, yes, of course, Kurenai-san, Kakashi-kun, he said cheerfully. Kurenai noticed Hinata's shy wave at two of the boys on Kakashi's team and was surprised at the motion. The one in a bandana smiled kindly at her through his face mask, while the taller boy with a raised collar nodded stiffly in greeting. Sasuke caught the motions and studied the two briefly, warily. The blue-eyed boy who'd smiled at Hinata caught his eye and offered a smile and slight head nod before turning his focus back to the front. Sasuke, recognizing them as two classmates who'd never bothered him before, let it go and focused as well. We have 2 D ranks available, Iruka said. This one is for finding Tora the cat. Kakashi winced as the Hokage handed it to him. The other is to find all the missing Nara deer in the northeast forest near their compound. Kurenai's eye twitched and her genin sighed. That sounded like it would take hours. Dismissed. The Hokage said cheerfully and the two genin teams left with their Jounin sensei. Kurenai noticed as the two she'd seen greet Hinata dropped back next to the girl and listened in on their conversation, knowing she wasn't the only one. "Hello, Hinata-chan," the one in the mask and bandana greeted her in a friendly manner. "How have you been? Settling into your team alright?" The shy girl nodded. "That is good," the tall boy said. "I am glad for you." Thank you Shino-kun, Naruto-kun," she said shakily, but with a smile. "Are you well?" she asked. "We have done well with our new team so far," Naruto stated. "We mesh fairly well though Shino's poor Kakashi keeps swarming because of Kiba-kun's penchant for yelling." He gently teased, earning a huff. "Ah, Naruto." "Shino. Hurry up." Kiba called and the two nodded. Naruto gave the girl a quick hand squeeze and goodbye before jogging after Kiba and the rest of his team. "Do you like him?" Sasuke asked, feeling jealous towards the masked boy as he stepped up to her side. The feeling was odd and he rather hated it. The girl glanced at him with wide eyes. "Naruto-kun?" Hinata said in surprise, "Like a boyfriend?" Sasuke nodded stiffly. She shook her head, "No, he's just one of my closest friends. When we were in our first 3 years of school he and Shino-kun regularly saved me from bullies. I admire their determination and am happy to be on such good terms with them. However, Naruto-kun isn't really interested in girls I think, and Shino says love at 12 isn't love, but your hormones acting up." Sasuke said, silently pleased. "You'll have to introduce me sometime. I never spoke to them in school." "They were pretty quiet." Hinata said, "They mostly train and study, so I think you like them." Sasuke watched her as she stared after her friends, her face happy, and shrugged. Kurenai watched this with a hidden smile. Already two of the most alone people in all of Konoha were becoming closer. Keeping her hand over an irate Sakura's mouth, she said brightly, "Come on team. Let's go find those deer." Cats, in Kiba's opinion, sucked. Tora the cat, in everyone's mind but specifically Kiba's at the moment, was a demon that should be killed. Groaning, Kiba resisted the need to rub his cheeks, the scratches covering them would only make that idea painful. Naruto sat next to him gently treating the marks he got on his arms, while Kakashi handed the irate feline back to its owner. A lucky mix of Kakashi, Sleeping Dart, and one of Naruto's hemp nets had caught the demon, although poor Kiba and Akamaru had served as bait. "Damn cat." Finishing with his teammate's arms, Naruto moved on to treating Kiba's face. The cleaning solution on the small pad stung and Kiba hissed, earning a chuckle. "That hurts," he yelped as the cotton pressed firmly against one of the deeper cuts. "Keep still," Naruto advised firmly, his fingers deftly treating the dog user. Akamaru had already been taken care of, having gotten a rather nasty bite on his ear that Kiba's sister would need to look at later. The blonde's own bandana had suffered under the cat's claws, and his mask was ripped in a number of places, forcing its wearer to discard it, much to Naruto's dismay. Kiba grumbled but watched his teammate's face as he gently went over the different wounds, treating them. "He looks so girly," Kiba thought with an inner chortle at Naruto's long lashes, big eyes and girly-looking face. "Naruto, do you ever pretend to be a girl?" Kiba asked and Akamaru stared at his partner in disbelief. Shino, catching the comment, turned and stared at him as well. Naruto, however, just nodded. "What?" Shino said, goggling at his best friend in shock. "Are you saying you cross-dress?" Naruto nodded again. The Aburame's remarkable brain shut down and he stared uncomprehendingly at the blonde. Naruto rolled his eyes and slapped the final bandage on, earning a yelp from Kiba. "Shino," Naruto said, "why was your mother known as the Jorōgumo?" That prompted the boy's mind back into working. She was able to get to different targets by pretending to be high-class geisha, prostitutes, wives of diplomats, and other female characters. Her techniques allowed her to enter unseen as any more than a pretty civilian or bed partner and leave with the mission complete. Oftentimes she'd escape just by screaming in surprise after finding her target assassinated the next morning. Shino reasoned. He stared at his friend, still confused, and said, So, Naruto said in a rare show of exasperation, "Ninja are never meant to be what they appear on the surface. One has to look beneath the underneath. By learning how to do different roles in both sexes, I can become an expert assassin. The mark of my graduation from under Sakiaba-san is to develop a technique to support this work and carry out an assassination using it and only the skills I've developed as an apprentice to the Jorōgumo. I already have the technique, I merely need to get the assassination done." "Can we see the technique?" Kiba asked and Shino nodded in curiosity. Naruto sighed but gave in. He stood back a few paces and went through a series of seals before saying, in embarrassment, "Oriak no jutsu-1." The poof of pink smoke and before them stood a beautiful girl with long elegantly done black hair swept partially up, soulful black eyes, and pale skin dressed in a sexy geisha outfit that covered a very well-developed body. Her makeup was done elaborately and Naruto quickly flicked a fan open to cover his face shyly, the blush on his cheeks real. "Whoa," Kiba said, gawking at his male teammate. "You're freaking hot." Naruto blushing snapped his fan closed and, in a poof, changed back into his usual form. "That is quite impressive," Shino stated, forcing his mind to actually work. "How is it different from a regular henge?" "Regular henge can break under pressure or use of chakra or no jutsu." He flushed in embarrassment at the name he had come up with when he was younger, so he figured it was okay. "Transforms the body completely, allowing for." Naruto turned bright red at this, "a variety of acts." Kiba's mouth dropped open. "You mean you can?" Naruto covered his mouth quickly, cheeks flushing further. Shino was starting to get concerned. He didn't want Naruto overheating. "I've never tested it," he said haltingly, "but I can fight and use my jutsu while transformed via my auric." Kiba nodded, equally in embarrassment, and turned away to stare at the wall. Scrambling for a bit of his dignity, Naruto said, "I'm going to the bathroom. Please tell sensei I'll be back in a moment." After he left, Kiba turned back to Shino and asked, with all serious, "Is it gay to want to do stuff to Naruto when he's like that or like perfectly straight?" The Aburame heir barely kept from smacking himself in the face. He did, however, punch his teammate in response. Cradling his jaw, Kiba muttered, "Stupid question." Akamaru rolled his eyes and hurried after Naruto. He wanted better company than his hormonal partner right now. Naruto returned and was surprised when the Hokage asked him to wait for a minute. The Hokage had always made sure to look out for him after learning of his abrupt departure from the orphanage 6 years ago, and he guessed that he was looking in on him. "Probably a check-in to see how I'm doing," the blonde surmised with a fond smile. The two chatted for a bit as they caught up before Naruto finally made to leave, his teammates going to meet for dinner, when someone burst into the room and tripped over nothing. "Fight me, old ma jerk." The boy shouted before falling flat on his face, having choked himself with his overly long blue scarf before promptly tripping on it. "Honorable grandson." Someone called as their hurried-sounding feet carried them towards them. "What in the?" Naruto said before getting cut off. Dressed in a shirt, shorts, a ridiculously long scarf of blue, and with a weirdly shaped gray helmet that allowed a small ponytail of brown hair to stick out from the very top was a small boy. His head went up and he glared angrily at Naruto, who stood in parade dress several feet away. "You tripped me?" he shouted angrily as he jumped to his feet. "You set a trap." Another shinobi came rushing in. "There's no trap, honorable grandson," the man exclaimed, giving Naruto the stink eye. The blonde dismissed him and focused on his accuser, instantly annoying the elite shinobi who recognized him since he was without his usual mask and bandana. "I did not," Naruto said coolly. The boy visibly pouted and screamed again. "You did. Little boy, it's rude to accuse someone for one's own failing. Please accept that you tripped over yourself and leave. You cannot just barge in on someone when they are in a meeting, especially between a military leader and one of their subordinates," Naruto stated firmly. The boy's face scrunched up in anger. "I'm the Hokage's grandson. You can't tell me what to do," he shouted before tossing a collection of shuriken at him. Naruto caught them easily and tucked them into his pocket with an out-of-character eye roll. The Hokage sighed and shook his head. "Honorable grandson," the man exclaimed. Seeing his first attack was ineffective, the small boy charged his opponent. "I'll get you," the boy screamed, and Naruto sighed, catching the brat by his collar and holding him out, dangling in the air like he preferred to have held and carried Tora if he wasn't so sure the animal would have escaped readily. "Let me go," the boy cried out, thrashing wildly. "Let him go, he's the Sandaimi's grandson," the shinobi protested angrily. "You can't harm him." Naruto beeped a brow at the Hokage before dropping the kid down on his butt. The kid hopped to his feet and scrambled to hit him, but Naruto merely pressed a hand to the kid's forehead and kept him shoved away. The pint-sized child swung at him wildly, though made no contact. Both Naruto and Hokage exchanged an exasperated look. The boy's tutor was puffing up like an irritated pea-beep, and Naruto would have liked to pull his tail feathers out forcibly or used one of his few Kaiten jutsus to light them up. "If he's so weak that he needs his grandfather's protection," Naruto drawled, "his grandfather shall have a say." "Hokage-sama, may I?" The Hokage sighed and nodded. Clenching his fist, Naruto brought it down on the boy's head, just like Iruka did to his more troubling students. "Itachi," the boy said before staring at him in amazement. Would Aya do that for? He couldn't believe somebody actually hit him. "You are careless and you are weak," Naruto stated. "Become strong enough that people speak your name first and then remember you were a Hokage's grandson." He turned and gave the Hokage a bow. "I'll take my leave then, if that is alright with you, sir," Naruto said with finality as the shinobi instructor and his student gaped at him. "You're free to go, Naruto, I'll see you when you report for your next mission," the Hokage said. The boy gave a final bow and disappeared through the doorway. Sarutobi watched his grandson stare after the genin in amazement before dashing after him, his tutor still stunned stupid. Covering his face with his hands, Hiruzen felt his age. He just hoped Konohamaru didn't learn anything weird following Naruto around. Kiba was laughing his ass off when he saw that Naruto had picked up a stalker. Behind Team 7, ill-hidden, was Konohamaru. The younger boy followed Naruto by dashing in short sneaking darts after him and stalking him by hiding rather badly behind trash cans, electricity poles and corners. Naruto sighed behind his replacement mask and glared at both of his teammates. "You guys go ahead," he finally said, disgruntled, "I have to see what he wants." Kiba shrugged and Shino nodded, leaving their third teammate behind. Walking towards the incorrectly positioned fence tarp, he grabbed it and pulled it down slightly. "What is it?" he said mildly. "Is there something I can help you with?" he asked. The boy flushed. "I want you to teach me, boss," he shouted, and Naruto clapped his hands over his ears to block out the loud noise. He was much too similar to an Aburame after all these years. "Okay," Naruto said, slightly dazed, "what exactly do you want me to teach you?" "I'm a genin, a brand new one at that. A rookie genin as they like to call us." The boy blinked at him. "Don't you have some awesome jutsu?" he asked. "Like a signature move?" "I have techniques I painstakingly labored at for years. I do not have a signature move." "That's lame." "No, signature moves do not belong in the shinobi world, signature moves belong in manga," the blonde replied. "A shinobi trains in all manner of things to become strong. There is no one move that makes them all powerful. Power is gained through hard work and dedication. No shortcuts, no one size fits all. You tailor your abilities to what you are willing and able to do and fulfill your goals and requirements," Naruto said sternly. "A shinobi is a weapon of the village. If you are going to go into battle with inferior grade weapons, then you shouldn't bother at all. It will only result in pain, defeat and misfortune on the part of you, your teammates, and the mission's objectives." "Then you have a whole bunch of awesome techniques?" Konohamaru asked. The genin sighed and gripped the boy by his collar before slinging him onto his back. "Hold on, kid, I am going to take you to my favorite spot in the whole village." Stretching his legs out, Naruto did something he hadn't in a while. He ran full melt through the streets, leaping to and fro from the sides of the buildings, while using shortcuts he'd learned while fleeing from mobs. All the while Konohamaru gazed around in wonder. There was no wind today, but his hair fluttered and a cool breeze hit his face. "Wow," he thought, glancing at the ninja below him in surprise and amazement, "it's like flying." They swiftly cut through the forest and up a path to the top of the monument. They landed tidily and Naruto led him off his back. "This is my favorite spot," the blonde said with a smile. "What do you see, kid?" he asked, looking down at the village. "The village?" he said questioningly up at the genin. The older boy smiled at him. "Anything else?" he asked. "The gate." Naruto shook his head at the answer. "Life," the blonde said, "people, kid, look around," he gestured as he sat down and crossed his arms over his knees and leaning forward. "There are thousands of people in Konoha, thousands of people who depend on shinobi and one another to be happy, safe, and loved," the genin said, Naruto's eyes moving over the different districts and buildings with a fondness. "Now what makes up Konoha, The brunette stared at him, not comprehending. "The buildings?" Konohamaru asked, knowing he was missing something. Naruto sighed and shook his head. "Come here, kid," Naruto said, "what scares you the most?" "Not being recognized," Konohamaru answered instantly before slapping his hand over his mouth in embarrassment. Sounds pretty similar to my own fear," Naruto answered. "It is? I mean, aren't you a little old to be scared?" the academy student asked. Naruto sighed. "You are never too old to be scared," Naruto said patiently. "The thing that scares me the most is being alone and losing all of my precious people that I have now and could have in the future." "Precious people?" Konohamaru asked. "Your Jai-chan, for example," Naruto said. "He is one of your precious people, right?" "Yeah." Konohamaru said in instant agreement. "He's a stinky old fart, but I wouldn't give him up for anything." The man in question coughed in embarrassment as he observed them via his crystal ball and muttered impertinent under his breath. "You'd do anything to protect him, right? Beat up anyone mean to him?" Naruto continued. "Yeah, of course." Konohamaru replied. "Nobody messes with anyone I care about. I won't stand for it." Naruto laughed warmly and smiled brightly at him. "That's how your grandfather and I feel about this entire village. That's what every shinobi feels when they go into battle if they're good shinobi. Dedication, love, and perseverance. A true shinobi does not learn fancy moves so he can impress people or win fights, he learns fancy moves and wins fights for his precious people. Konoha is the home of these precious people. That's why I fight and train and learn." Naruto stood up and picked the boy up so he could get an even better view. "What about you, kid? Do you see and get my point?" The boy nodded slowly, eyes wide and shining. "You got it, boss," he said, thrusting a clenched fist into the air. "I'm going to become strong enough to protect the village and all my precious people," he shouted. "Good little minion," Naruto teased. The boy pouted. "I'm not a minion," he whined, "and my name isn't Kid, it's Konohamaru." he bellowed. I'm gonna be the strongest ninja I can be and protect all my precious people. Naruto laughed in delight. You'd better or I'll hit you even harder than I did in Hokage-sama's office. Naruto said with a bright smile. Believe it, boss. Better show it then. Okay. So you have a minion? Shino asked in amusement. I am his boss, am I not? Naruto shot back with a grin, that makes him my minion, no. His best friend snorted and turned back to his book while shaking his head. I cannot agree or refute that statement, he said blandly. But it does appear you have a little Tagalong now. Naruto smiled ruefully. Yes, indeed I do, he said in confirmation. He's an okay kid though. What did you do with him for the past 3 hours though? Shino asked. Naruto had missed dinner with his teammates, though neither really minded since Kiba had been dragged away by his sister to do chores he'd been slacking off on, and Shino had gotten caught up with a semi-rare insect. We played ninja, Naruto said with a smile. And I taught him some. Played ninja? Shino asked amused. He does know you're already a genin, right, with a hit I8 and everything. He calls it training, Naruto replied mildly. The Kakashi user snorted in amusement. So how did you play ninja? Shino queried. It was like advanced tag, I showed him how to set traps and then had him hide while I tracked him and graded them, Naruto said. He did fairly well. He's got a steady hand, although he needs some work on his chemical knowledge since he can't make smoke bombs all that well. You also said you were teaching him. Shino pointed out. What did you teach him? I started on some of the simpler traps, of course, chakra control, henge and a defensive kata. I could have done more, that is, I would have until his bratty teacher showed up and tried to drag him away. Naruto frowned at this. I hate Ibisu, he was unnecessarily rude. What happened? Shino asked, seeing the dark look. He shut his book and sat up straight, meeting his best friend's gaze behind his sunglasses. Well, it happened like this. Flashback. Naruto had Konohamaru set up basic traps, ones that Naruto taught him first, and hide from the genin, as training on being stealthy. Giving the boy a 10-minute head start after the last trap was Lady set off. Expertly dodging through a few simple traps, eyeing them knowledgeably to see how well they were hidden and made, he tracked the boy. They were passable, he thought quietly to himself, and Naruto had no doubt that the boy would learn to make them even better with some time and practice. Following his trail through the trees, he easily leapt from one to the other, controlling his chakra in steady bursts. He caught sight of the scarf and grinned, found you? He sang out, capturing the boy easily, earning a startled but excited yelp. Wow. Konohamaru said, stopping the watch with a click, taking in the time. That was so fast, boss. That's what training gets you, Naruto said cheerfully, putting the boy down and resetting the watch. I left the traps up for you to dismantle, they're passable, but a few looked pretty flimsy, the boy pouted, but Naruto ignored it easily. I want you to dismantle them and return to me as quickly and safely as you can. He ordered him lightly. The boy nodded and ran off. 15 minutes later he came back carrying all of the equipment with a grin. Good job, Naruto said with a smile. What did you learn? The easiest way to dismantle is to trigger him. He answered. Well, the wire ones at least. Naruto nodded. Most traps were elaborate in setup but simple in removal if the person making them knew what to do. So Naruto said, trying to figure out what to do next, want to learn henge. He really had no idea what to do with the kid. Henge? A jutsu? The boy brightened. Yeah, do you know the symbols for it? Naruto asked. We haven't started learning them in class yet, but I was taught a few by that Ibisu guy, Konohamaru said with a shrug. Naruto nodded and thought it over for a second. Well, let's get you down for the different hand seals and then I'll show you the jutsu, it'll be very basic though. Naruto warned him. Konohamaru merely grinned. Basics are gonna make me an awesome ninja, right? Right. Then I'm okay with that. Naruto smiled and ruffled the boy's hair. Okay then, he said, showing him the first one. This here as they went through each seal, Naruto patiently correcting the boy, just as Sakiabe-san had with him when he was first learning. When he got it down, Naruto demonstrated a simple henge into Iruka-sensei. Oh Konohamaru gaped, you look just like Yamino-sensei. Naruto gave an in-character sheepish smile and scar rub before changing back in a quick pop. Now I want you to try, Naruto said, crouching down, visualize who you want to turn into, their clothes, their skin color, even the way their hair usually is. When you get that image, hold on to it and do the jutsu. Konohamaru nodded with determination and went through the seals before shouting. Henge. The boy was surrounded by a cloud of smoke before it dissipated to reveal a rather bad copy of the Hokage. Not bad for a first try, Naruto said with a wince. Konohamaru released it with a pout. Ruffling the boy's only available hair, Naruto suggested, why don't you give it another go? Remember everything about the Hokage this time, from the way he smells to the way he talks. Everyone needs to practice to get better, Kono-kun, don't let it bother you if it's not perfect the first few times. The boy brightened at the first use of a nickname and set his mouth into a line of determination. He would get this. 2 hours later he was able to perform the jutsu fairly well and his smile was brilliant at his success. "Good job," Naruto praised. "You did well." The boy hugged Naruto's waist in thanks. He rarely if ever got praised for his actual accomplishments, never mind actual lessons. "Thank you, Narunichan." Naruto flinched at the name. "Ah no, Kono-kun, I'm not." He was interrupted however when a loud bang in the clearing next to them announced someone's arrival via Shushin. "I found you." Ibisu shouted, grabbing Konohamaru up by the scruff of the neck. "Lem go." The boy shouted, flailing. "I don't want to go back with you, jerk." He kicked and punched ineffectively at the tall shinobi. "Please release him," Naruto requested mildly, irritated at the manhandling of his student and friend. "You ran off with the honorable grandson." The man accused and Naruto rolled his eyes a second time. "No," the blonde genin drawled, "you lost him. Some elite shinobi you proved to be." The man colored. Naruto was hardly ever this rude or sarcastic, but people like Ibisu just rubbed him the wrong way. "We're leaving, honorable grandson. You've skipped enough lessons today." "Lessons? You call those lessons? I've learned jack from you, jerk." Konohamaru protested. "Naruni-chan is a better teacher than you." Naruto twitched at the incorrect suffix, but let it go for now, he could always correct him later. "The boss is teaching me how to protect my precious people." Naruto smiled a bit proudly at Konohamaru's proclamation. It was good that such important values were being passed down, and now surely the man would understand. Ibisu, however, scoffed. "Oh? What have you learned from him? The little brat's pathetic and wouldn't be able to do anything, let of all protect someone. Probably just get them killed." The man said and both of them stiffened in outrage. Naruto's fine patience came to an end and he summarily put himself into what Sakyaba-san called his workspace of mind. "Konohamaru, remember what I told you about fighting off perverts?" The blonde asked in a deceptively calm manner. "Yeah, boss." The boy shouted. "Sing. Then proceed." Ibisu, however, was a ninja and never learned to fear women. He was a closet pervert, unable to even stand being near one without panting heavily. So he was unprepared when he sneered, "Sing. Show me your sing abilities then." "They're not abilities," Naruto said with a frown. "They're an acronym for what, Kono-kun, please demonstrate." The boy smiled wolfishly and reared his leg back and started with the first with a shout. "Stomach." The boy gave a hard kick to the stomach, making the man drop him in surprise as his breath left him with the incredibly painful move, instep. He stomped hard on the arrogant snot's foot as he landed, grinding down to increase its effectiveness. Nose. The boy jumped up and kicked the man in the face, leaving an imprint of his sandal, and landed pulling back his improperly curled fist and shouted, "Groin." The 10-year-old's fist plowed into the shinobi's jewels, his punch properly formed and stand solid just like Naruto had demonstrated and taught. "Irk," the tutor said as he finally collapsed to the ground. Konohamaru straightened and propped his hands on his hips with a grin, chest puffed out proudly. "Looks painful," Konohamaru said with satisfaction and a firm nod denoting how pleased he was. "Good." "Konohamaru," Naruto said primly. "Remember what it is for." "I remember, boss, only against perverts or in emergencies." Konohamaru answered, flashing a quick victory sign with his fingers. "Good. Now, since he appears to be unconscious, I'm going to take this opportunity to show you how to tie up bad guys," Naruto said with a slightly evil glint as he pulled out a hank of hemp rope. "This is a very good skill to learn, so watch closely." "You got it, boss," Konohamaru said excitedly. The duo quickly went through one of the basic Hojujutsu techniques. Naruto graciously untied Ibisu from the example and let Konohamaru practice, doing it with careful precision. When they were finished, the man's ankles, wrists, and neck were connected to one another and he would have difficult moving, let alone escaping. Feeling generous, Naruto was willing to toss a rope over a branch and haul the man's undefended body into the open air away from predators, his soft unprotected stomach dangling down in an uncomfortable arch. Smacking his hands clean of dirt, the genin turned to smile at his minion. "Good. Now, do you want to go get a snack?" Naruto chirped cheerfully. Konohamaru cheered with an excited head bob before they left. Flashback end. "And so we got Dango, and while eating he fell asleep, so I took him home before coming back." Naruto finished his tale of his adventure with the Sandaimi's grandson. Shino stared at his best friend silently, his face slightly slack in incredulity. "You taught a 10-year-old how to fight using Sing. Didn't you get that technique from attending some anti-rape class with Hinata-chan?" Shino said in disbelief. "Yes. However, the technique is effective in its usage." Naruto replied mildly. After all, he is the Hokage's grandson and an academy student, so some form of defense was needed to be taught to him. As it is, he will not start actually fighting with Taijutsu against his peers until the new school year, Naruto reasoned with a smirk. Iruka-sensei, I am sure, will appreciate a little outside coaching. Of course, Shino said. A companionable silence formed after that as Shino thought it out. How long was he in that tree for? Shino asked when he realized Naruto hadn't mentioned whether or not the shinobi had escaped to harass the pair further. I have no idea actually. That depends on whether or not he got out of Kono-kun's hojujutsu practice yet, Naruto stated. Shino stared at his friend before turning back to his book. The shinobi was, supposedly, an elite jounin, so if he couldn't get out of a 10-year-old's inexperienced rope work, he deserved whatever came for him. Kurenai was surprised to see Kakashi seated at the bar nursing a cup of sake, his little orange book out of sight. Kakashi, she said as she sat down next to him earning a disinterested glance. Kurenai, he said placidly. Hard day. He took in her slight must and put out state. She looked like she'd been dragging things through the forest and bush all day. She had to be exhausted to go out for a drink without changing. She was a bit of a clothes horse like that. Nara deer are just as lazy as their masters, Kurenai said ruefully and motioned to the barkeep to get her own bottle of sake and a cup. They appeared quickly and she let out a long sigh of relief after her first cup. They don't spook or anything, just stand there staring with strangely intelligent eyes that look almost amused. Don't fall for bribes either, not unless they're especially witty. Of course, for certain foods they'll move easily. She snorted in humor as a sudden image came up and Kakashi glanced at her in question. She smirked and explained. Just remembering Haruno's face when one of the deer decided her hair was cotton candy and would be delicious to eat, then when the rest made a consensus that it was time to try it, Kakashi's face morphed into a smirk and the silver-haired jounin laughed. The deer tried to eat one of your genin's hair? Kakashi asked. You're saying it like as though the deer didn't succeed, they easily got several centimeters, Kurenai replied wryly. Kakashi perked up with a grin. Tell me more. Kurenai worked through her second bottle and Kakashi his third when they were joined by Asuma who sat down with a grunt. Asuma, Kakashi said way of greeting. Kurenai just offered a smile. The man didn't say anything immediately and instead the two watched as the man got his bottle and knocked it back with relish, not even bothering with the cup, gulping it like a dying man of some sort. I'm probably going to choke one of my genin, the former Guardian 12 ninja stated mildly when he finished his bottle. They suck. Kakashi couldn't help but snort. Who's getting on your last nerve? Kurenai asked curiously. Yamanaka. Pretty much, the smoker replied. Damn girl keeps moaning about the uchiha and how much the other two suck or how this is doing nothing for her diet, it's annoying. Diet? Kurenai asked in disbelief. She's 12. And a ninja. Unless she's pigging out I highly doubt she needs to diet. Unbelievable. You were going to beat it out of her head, right? Kakashi asked mildly. I remember that Chunin Yumino suggesting a visit to Anko's. Both Kurenai and Asuma stopped to think it over before sighing. Naruto's fairly useless, however I have another 5.5 months to fix her, if that doesn't work, I'll withhold their application to the Chunin exams, Kurenai muttered. Hinata and Sasuke seem to know how to be good shinobi, I just have to curb some of their worse obsessions and boost up their confidence. Ino just needs to be dragged out of the mentality that she's better than everyone and doesn't need to practice as much since she's the heir to the Yamanaka clan. The other two are just not motivated by the right things. However, they're less of a headache than the Kunoichi. All three jounin grimaced. None of my brats are like that, but I think that's because Uzumaki and Aburame balance Inuzuka out. They're already fairly close-knit for a group that's only been formed for a few days. I have to leave all my books at home or in my pouch when I'm with them though, Kakashi said with a sigh at the end. You do? Asuma queried in surprise. They're willing to work, Kakashi said. Plus I really would rather not get my favorite book stolen by them again in one of our practice bars. The last time I brought it they left me tied up for an hour in a web trap and had the book covered in puppy pee. Both of the other jounins laughed at this and Kakashi merely pouted under his mask as he filled his cup once more and drank from it. When Asuma and Kurenai got a hold of themselves, Asuma leaned forward and grinned, what'd ya say about pitting our two teams against each other in a training exercise? You know some spars. Kurenai perked up at this. I wouldn't be against that. Sasuke-kun could use a male partner to fight against. As it is, he only has Hinata-chan that he can practice with. Sakura-chan's too useless in anything physical to make an attempt, Kurenai said. Kakashi fingered his chin thinking it over. We have practice tomorrow, so why don't you bring them over whenever? I let my genin know, I'm pretty sure they'd be happy with it. Kakashi offered. Good. Asuma said with cheer before flagging down the barkeep, I need another 2 of these. He explained, I've got my first genin team and I promised myself I'd have one for each of the little troublemakers, might even make it 2, since it's been that bad of a day. Naruto was surprised to see Konohamaru bright and early the next morning, but allowed it since class didn't pick up for another week and a half. Letting him in, the younger boy marveled over the fact he lived alone and among the secretive Aburames. "So you want to train under me still?" Naruto asked. "Yeah. You're the best ever, Ni-chan." Konohamaru expounded. "Ibisu didn't get out of my rope ties until after midnight apparently. Jiji-chan showed me via his crystal ball." "Wasn't it a little late for you to be up?" Naruto asked in humor, though he made a note to correct the boy's assumptions on his gender once again. "And I'm not your Ni-chan. I am your Nai-chan, Kono-kun," Naruto said. The boy stared at him. "Whatever you say, boss," the boy stated, disbelieving. "Because I've seen a lot of girls uglier than you are." "Yes, well," Naruto cleared his throat, "I am male. I do know how to pretend to be a girl since it is part of my training, so maybe that's why you are confused." "So you're a tranny?" was Konohamaru's conclusive question. The honorable grandson got punched again. Kakashi appeared in the training ground and nearly burst out laughing. One of his genin had a duckling of a sorts following after him. Since he was earlier than usual, 10 minutes late instead of whole hours, he got to catch Kiba rolling on the ground laughing. "Ni-chan." Kiba choked out, "He calls you Ni-chan." "Kiba, you are acting disgraceful," Naruto said with an embarrassed flush. "Get up and stop laughing." "Did you show him your Oric no Jutsu?" the Inyazuka asked as he finally got a hold of himself. "Oric no Jutsu?" Konohamaru asked in curiosity. The blonde actually smacked himself in the face with a groan before kicking Kiba in a fit of childishness. "Can you demonstrate?" Kakashi asked, startling all of them except Shino, who'd seen him and given him his usual welcoming head nod. The blue eyes widened beneath his bandana and turned pleading. The jounin ignored it. "It's not dangerous, right, Naruto?" Kakashi prompted. The blonde sighed but accepted for the fact he'd likely be called Ni-chan by his little brother figure for the rest of his life. "No, it's not, but make sure to remember I was still born male. Even after I do this technique, got it?" he snapped sternly. Rolling his eyes, he turned and taunted Kiba, "Do try not to drool, puppy dog." "Hey." Kiba protested and Naruto merely tossed his head slightly before going through the different seals quickly. "Oric no Jutsu." A cloud of pink smoke enveloped Naruto and after it disappeared in its place was a charming girl. "Transformation complete," the girl said, brushing her tangle of golden hair out of her face. She looked like an older Naruto, but with a fully and generously developed body, hair down, and no whiskers. Kakashi instantly used Kai to dispel it and arched an eyebrow in surprise. There was no change in Naruto. Coyly, in character, slapped his shoulder at the action. "It's solid?" he asked, gesturing for one of her hands. Naruto rolled her eyes and nodded, giving it to him. "Wow." Konohamaru said, jaw dropping open, "Is this like a super henge, Ni-chan?" Naruto let out another sigh before glowering at Kiba, who was too busy trying not to see his teammate as a sex object. The body was covered in a flimsy-looking baby doll dress of green that ended at mid-thigh, with matching silver heels that made the already tan and incredibly long legs even more attractive. "Yes, in a manner, Kono-kun," Naruto replied. Kakashi kept prodding and testing it, though Naruto slapped his hands away from his more personal and private areas with a glare. The man didn't try it again when he heard the angry hum of Kakachu and met the gaze of a displeased Shino. "Can you teach me?" the 10-year-old asked. "I'll think about it," was the response. "Please." Started the begging, which continued for the next several minutes between the two. Kiba, wisely for once, refrained from saying the two reminded him of he and his sister when he was younger. The blonde finally got fed up with it and made his ultimatum. "If you can successfully do a henge, a clone jutsu, and a substitution jutsu to my approval, I'll agree to actually consider it. Until then you're on chakra control exercises," he said in a final manner. The boy pouted but gave in. "Go find a leaf and practice. Better yet, why don't you review the different traps I showed you? Fetch your supplies, I'll let you test the things you learned the other day on Kiba-kun," he said, ignoring his teammate's indignant cry of "What?" The boy brightened and ran off to get his tools. The Hokage, after seeing his lessons in traps, had given him some of his own supplies and a bit of money to buy more, which meant Naruto had taken him shopping for even more building materials before coming to the training field. "I'll be back quickly, Ni-chan," he shouted as he disappeared in a cloud of dust. Naruto groaned at the name. "Your minion is quite exuberant," Shino said, and Kiba started laughing again, while Kakashi couldn't help but smile. The blonde just smacked himself in the face in exasperation, dragging his hand over his face tiredly before glaring at them. Akamaru jumped into his arms and he pouted around the dog. "You three," he said with great maturity, "just suck." Teammate and Team 10 showed up around the same time at Training Field 7 and started butting heads. Or well, Ino and Sakura started butting heads. "Nice hair, forehead." Ino snarled as she took in the newly shortened hair. While still long, she was now required to have it pinned up, thus making it look more like her old bob in the back. "Decided you needed a new look?" because you need a new face. I'm not ugly in the least, if anyone could use a new face, as well as a new personality, it would be you, Ino pig. Sakura snapped back, their heads coming together and pressing hard in a series of small shoves via their foreheads. Their long-suffering teammates merely ignored them and joined Team 7 who paused in their chakra control training. The three jounin were currently meeting up by the gate a little ways away from the fighting girls discussing something and couldn't be bothered to break it up, so they all ignored them. "Hello," Naruto said as he jumped off of the stick he was forced to balance on. The staff stayed planted until he touched it again and unstuck it from the ground, several pieces splintering off into smaller shapes and sticks and were promptly sealed away. The leaf he'd stuck to his head fluttered to the ground, as did the ones on his arms, torso and legs. "Ta chakra control exercises?" Hinata asked, recognizing it as one of the more advanced and combined ones. She smiled and waved slightly at Shino when he joined them. "Yes, good eye Hinata-chan," Naruto complimented with a smile. "We're glad you could make it," he said, politely giving them a short bow in greeting before beeping a confused brow at the two girls catfighting. "Your teammates, I assume?" he asked, and the two pairs nodded tiredly. Both girls were louder than their quieter companions, and it was quite taxing to be around them usually, but combined it was exhausting. "My sympathies," he said to them. Shino nodded in agreement at his words. "It could be worse," Shikamaru said as he hunched next to Chimjai. "Yeah," the Akamichi said, "we could be on a team with both of them," Sasuke visibly shuddered. "Yeah, well," Kiba said, coming over as he wiped the sweat from his brow and catching part of the discussion, "no crazy Kunoichi on Team 7, just someone who can irk." The four blinked in surprise as the dog user curled over the sudden elbow to the gut he'd gotten from the usually gentle and quiet Uzumaki. All of them stared at the sweet look on his face and sweat dropped. The usually mild-tempered blonde looked fit to kill. "You have dug your grave once today," the boy said mildly, "do not start filling it in. Or I will make you Kono-kun's practice partner in every sing variation and the lead runner in each trap tag game until he makes chunin, better yet jounin, Kiba-kun." Kiba paled and nodded, the past few hours serving as Konohamaru's training partner had been exhausting, and he'd been overjoyed when the boy left to go home for the day. He did not want to be stuck doing that again indefinitely. The Kakashi-sensei had made it even worse by having Naruto do a number of demonstrations for Konohamaru, telling the blonde to leave his traps up and making Kiba's already difficult runs more troublesome. The group, however, looked slightly confused. "Sing?" Sasuke asked. Hinata piped up at this, knowing what he was talking about. It's a defense combo civilian girls learn against perverts and attempted rapists," Hinata explained. "It's an acronym that stands for stomach, eye instep, nose and gr groin, the series in which you should hit the person when they grab you from behind," Hinata said. "Most kunoichi don't bother learning it, but Naruto-kun and I took a class back when we were 10. "Why would you take that?" Chimjai asked curiously as he worked through his chip bag. He offered it to Naruto, who took a chip in thanks and nibbled on it before answering. It was a surprisingly cute gesture, but they all wondered how he ate through the mask. "I may have to play the role of a civilian female on a mission," Naruto illuminated, "so it would be a good idea how to act like one and defend myself like one." Shikamaru nodded slightly in understanding, though he was too lazy to comment. "I believe Hinata-chan took it because it would be a fun outing we could both enjoy." It was good stress relief," she agreed. Naruto and they shared a smile, and the rest of the boys got a rather girly feeling from it. It was much different than the rather bitchy fight going on behind them between Sakura and Ino. To be honest, the male genin, except Naruto, didn't understand why the other girls couldn't be like Naruto and Hinata, calm, helpful, able cooks, and reliable ninja. Fangirls sucked. The boys thought collectively. "We'll have to go shopping together again soon," Naruto suggested. "And you wonder why Konohamaru calls you Ni-chan. Yoch." Kiba muttered and earned a sharp heel jab from Naruto. The boy hopped for a second on one foot, nursing the bruised appendage while glaring at the blonde, earning himself an amused smirk that had just begun baring teeth in a rather dangerous manner. "Ah, sensei," Shino said, secretly in relief when he noticed the jounin instructor's approach. He'd seen the glint in his best friend's eyes and knew that the talk was spiraling down into madness. "Are we going to get an explanation now?" he asked, and the jounin nodded as he formed up with his two colleagues. "Yes," Kakashi said, "well, we decided to let you get some experience fighting with members not on your team." "So sparring?" Ino asked as she and Sakura joined them. "Can we sit it out?" Shikamaru looked up in interest at that question. "No, anyone not sparring will be running laps," Asuma said. Shikamaru drooped. "Gee," he muttered, "troublesome." "It would be more troublesome if you collapsed in the middle of a mission, Shikamaru-san," Naruto said, "especially on one where you could end up killed. Or worse yet, a teammate. You'd hate to have Chimjai's death on your conscience, right?" The Nara heir straightened at that and glowered darkly to the side. Exactly, Kurenai said with a slight and approving smile at Naruto, while Asuma made a note to use that excuse to get his boys going, since both took their best friend's safety quite seriously. These matches will not be strictly to jutsu, so you may use any shinobi art you have. Do refrain from seriously injuring anyone though. The genin nodded. How will we be pairing up? Sakura asked, eyeing the others warily. We will be picking your opponent, Kakashi said with a smile as he bent forward, and we'll only announce it at the start of the match, so be prepared. You could be fighting anyone who is not on your team. The genin sized one another up, only Ino and Sakura looking scared about it. Both Chimjai and Shikamaru looked reluctant. How many times will we be fighting? Naruto asked and Shikamaru focused once more. Until you pass out, the three jounin said with a cheerfulness that made the genin shiver in dread. Troublesome. Shikamaru growled. So troublesome. Sasuke studied Uzumaki and Aburame closely as they waited for their turn and chatted with Hinata as their teammate fought Chimjai. There were loud crashes and curses from the two, but it was a respectful fight at least. Sakura was currently arguing with Ino over something, while Shikamaru appeared to be napping in the shade of a tree. Who do you think you will be paired up with, Hinata-chan? Naruto asked from the other side of her Sasuke positioned on her left. Maybe Ino or I don't know. She said thinking it over. Sasuke thought it was likely as well, especially since any fight between Ino and Sakura was sure to become a brawl instead of a learning experience. It is probable, Shino agreed. I personally wonder who I shall be fighting. You might go against Shikamaru. You are both distant specialists and strategists. Naruto said. Maybe Sakura. I feel that the only fight she's getting today will be to learn brains are nice indoors, but you need a body to complete the mission completely. Sasuke agreed with that as well. The Pinket seemed determined to be as useless as possible. Hinata, however, picked up on who the last unmatched pair in the group's estimate was. So you'll be going against Sasuke-kun, Naruto-kun? Hinata probed. Sasuke tuned in on this, and the two boys met each other's gaze in an assessing manner. We both need someone who has a wide variety of attack types. Naruto reasoned out. Also, our taijutsu is fairly similar as well, since we go for speed and precision. Sasuke nodded at that, knowing his fighting style had been summed up correctly. He wouldn't mind fighting him either. Uzumaki had always been a decent sparring partner during school, though it had been clear he had been holding back. Do you agree, Sasuke-kun? Hinata asked him and he realized he'd always been included in the discussion. HN. It's likely. He replied with a grunt. They heard Kiba shout in victory as Chimjai collapsed in a tired pile on the ground with a grunt. Akamaru landed on the boy's chest as Kiba pinned his legs. The fight was declared over and Kiba got up with a lively jump as Chimjai sat up tiredly. Yes. You did good, Akamaru. The boy said lifting his dog up into the air excitedly, Akamaru having served as an excellent distraction and guide for his partner during the fight, guiding Kiba during his attacks and defenses. You'll do better next time, Chimjai, Asuma told his genin, he just has more stamina and slightly better chakra control. Both things can be easily fixed. The dirty blonde nodded, a bit discouraged before getting to his feet. Kiba grinned at him. Nice fight man. Kiba said bouncing over, you're pretty strong. Is that cause of your clan's jutsu? Chimjai blinked in surprise before nodding awkwardly. Shikamaru cracked an eye open and watched the two interact before shutting it again with a slight smile. It would be good if Chimjai got more people who believed in him. Next up, Sasuke-kun and Uzumaki-kun, Kurenai called out and the two exchanged a glance before going over. I want a good fight, Naruto said with a smile. So I won't be holding back. Sasuke felt a small bundle of warmth enter his stomach and the adrenaline start pumping through his blood. You better not, dope, he replied. You'll lose if you do. Naruto's smirk was apparent through his mask. Let's see how well you do, Rookie of the Year. He replied brushing some lint of his shoulders. Sometimes boys can only talk to each other through their fists. Naruto was pleased to be fighting Uchiha. He was a strong opponent and he could go all out unlike with some of his classmates. Taking his stance he instantly switched between kakute so he would have a mix of ones he laced with a mild sedative as well as those suited for intricate wirework. Uchiha took a position opposite him, hands loose and prepared to form seals the second the fight was started. Watching them for a moment, Kurenai raised her hand and then slashed it down, Hajime. She barked and the two exploded into motion. Naruto sent a series of punches at the other who dodged, his eyes catching sight of the pointed ends on the rings, and kicked out to earn some room. They separated, Naruto landing on the side of a tree to Sasuke's surprise, as the other slid back on the loose soil, a cloud of dirt and dust, hiding both from the other's view. This was something Naruto used to his advantage, his mind pulling out a strategy that made him grin. He quickly set up the groundwork before moving on to the next step. The bandana-wearing boy crouched down before bursting forward, his hands quickly throwing out a series of bow shuriken and senman. Sasuke dodged them, letting them strike the ground around in a seemingly random pattern. Ducking forward, he rushed ahead and quickly went through a few of his seals. Taking a deep breath, he blew out, forming a giant fireball that blasted towards Naruto. Phase narrowing, Naruto went through a series of seals and quickly escaped using the substitution jutsu. He landed in place of a twig to Sasuke's left and charged from there, kunai coming out and moving in a series of sharp attacks and slashes. Drawing his own weapon, Sasuke met the blade in a flash and then dodged a series of punches with a curse. Unfortunately, he felt the stinging prick of the kakute hitting and the sedative entering his system. Disengaging, he leapt free, further into Naruto's starting zone as Naruto took his place on the outside. The blonde smirked and made a sudden grabbing motion, yanking and twisting it while using all his strength and dexterity as he sprung his trap. Suddenly there were threads wrapping around the last uchiha, trapping his arms against his sides. Damn. Sasuke grunted as Naruto pinned him. He glanced grudgingly at the blonde as he twisted the threads once more to make sure his prey couldn't undo them. Naruto then ran forward, executing a quick gain jutsu that caused the boy's eyes to glaze before succumbing to the sedative. Match. Uzumaki. Kurenai called out with a surprised smile. Shikamaru watched with a slight grin as the smallest boy in the group used tactics and strategy to maneuver the slightly faster opponent into a hidden web. The blonde's Jounin sensei crouched next to him as Naruto started working on undoing the trap. What did you use to capture him? Kakashi asked. I didn't see you laying down any of the regular wire. Naruto smiled up at him as he freed his opponent and treated him for the sedatives, hands shining a faint green, as he also treated a rather nasty cut from where Naruto's kunai had successfully struck. It's a specialty thread used by trap makers that is nearly invisible to the eye. It comes from specially produced spider silk before being soaked in a solution to make it nigh indestructible. It's naturally yellow, as you can see, almost golden in coloring. He showed it to the man who took it carefully. In full sunlight it is indistinguishable, and in foliage appears like a beam of sunlight or not at all, fully camouflaged. The spiders they use, Naruto smirked at this, are called Jorōgumo, Kakashi said wryly. I was going to say golden orb web spiders, but that is correct as well. Naruto said with surprising cheek. Sasuke groaned and slowly awakened. He scrunched his face at the shorter boy and sat up with some help. The sedative is short-acting, but it will take about an hour to fully leave your system, Naruto said. Luckily it was not the one mixed with any hallucinogen or truth serum, so you should be fine after you get something to eat and drink plenty of water. Sasuke said, and Naruto helped him up fully. Naruto-kun, would it be okay if he ate something from your packed lunch? Hinata asked, knowing her friend well. Naruto was always happy to feed someone. It was probably due to having gone without when he was much younger before entering the Aburame's lives. Oh, of course, Naruto said, let me go grab it and I will fix you a plate. Naruto settled him next to his female teammate and went to get the leftovers. Naruto, since joining Team 7, had taken to creating large training lunches while making sure to make enough so there were plenty of leftovers for an afternoon snack. We eaten finally? Kiba asked, eyeing the large bento when Naruto returned. Chimjai glanced at it curiously. Hush you, Naruto said, you act as if you only eat when I feed you. It's good food, Naruto-chan, Kiba bantered. Chan? Naruto asked dryly. Kiba caught the eyeing look and scrambled to cover his slip. It just came out. Kiba replied weakly. Please don't kill me. Naruto rolled his eyes and spread the blanket out before laying out the extra plates and opening up the lunch boxes. Wow, Chimjai said, seeing how many different items there were. You made all this, Naruto-san? He asked. Yes, would you like some, Chimjai-san? Naruto asked. Don't worry about the amount. If we run out, I have some dried food and snacks sealed in one of my scrolls. He knelt on the blanket and picked up a plate. Sure, Chimjai said, salivating over the meal. Naruto dug out the serving spoon and chopsticks he used to dish out the dishes. Anything specific you would like, Uchiha-kun? Naruto asked as he placed some rice and yakisoba into a rice bowl and on a plate. I like tomatoes, the boy replied, taking a seat as Hinata assisted Naruto by pouring out drinks. Lemonade? She asked the maker of all the food. The liquid had a slight lemony scent to it and she poured each of them a glass. More like lemon-flavored water, Naruto replied. It helps with digestion, Shino explained, accepting his own cup with a slight head nod. Why? Because the acidic nature of the citrus urges the stomach to start being productive. Ah, she said and handed it to Sasuke, who drank it carefully. The soup was dished out and he started on that while Naruto added some stewed beef with tomatoes, salad, and fried vegetables to his plate. We ate up all the dessert already, sorry, Naruto said, handing him the plate. That's fine, Sasuke said, thanks for the food. Naruto nodded and glanced at Chimjai when he asked him something about the food preparation of one of the dishes, answering freely and with a little pride. Sasuke ate the food cautiously, he didn't know how good of a cook Naruto actually was, thus he proved to be surprised when he found out how good it tasted. Biba, don't grab things with your hands from the communal serving dish. Naruto scolded, smacking the Inuzuka's fingers away from one of the meat buns in the box, earning a pout. Naruto fixed 2 more plates, making sure Kiba got the meat bun he wanted, and handed them over to Chijai and his teammate, before fixing a smaller one for Hinata and himself. Shino had declined and gotten up for his fight with Shikamaru. Neither Sakura nor Ino would eat anything since they were too busy arguing on the other side of the training field, so Naruto didn't bother offering. Thanks, Chijai said. I need to eat often to fill up my chakra reserves. Because you convert them so fast, Naruto said, poking the Akimichi's side, earning a surprised chuckle at the ticklish motion. Your clan's specialty is in the storage of them for later use, right? Yes, Akimichi said. You can tell that. People would call what you have fat, however, Naruto explained, steamrolling past Chijai's trigger word, what you snack on are things I see higher level shinobi eating after taxing missions. Plus, Naruto took Chijai's wrist and pressed down on the bones there. You have a denser bone structure which is clearly passed down from you parents. So your weight gain is purposeful. Not because you merely refuse to exercise or eat to an excess. I've seen the effort you put into staying fast even with your weight. Chijai's face brightened at the knowledgeable conclusion the shorter boy made, as well as blushing humbly. The rest of the group listened in curiosity. Many had wondered why Chijai ate like he did, so this description served them well. Naruto, however, continued on between bites. I've seen some of your family train as well. If I remember correctly, your style is built on overpowering and crushing your opponents, similar to Kiba's, who is based on running down and overwhelming them. I've seen sumo wrestlers built along the same lines as you, and it is all muscle in your arms, upper legs and calves. Chijai grinned and smiled even more when Naruto refilled his empty plate. He noticed that the boy didn't bother with any salad and filled it with meat and carbohydrates, while the others, except for Kiba, got a more balanced plate. Which style would you say is stronger? Kiba asked in curiosity, handing his plate over to be refilled, getting another meat bun and some ribs. Neither, Naruto answered. Why? Kiba pouted. If you were going merely based on strength, Akimichi-sen would win, Hinata piped up, clearly more relaxed in the company of Naruto and Sasuke. Enough so she could speak outside of her usual stutters. In pinning and pursuit, Inuzuka-sen would take it. However, she glanced at Naruto as her voice petered out, who nodded and took up the explanation. In the shinobi world there are different jobs and positions. Due to your different fighting styles and clans, however, it isn't likely that you two would be in the same position, the same squad maybe, but definitely not the same position. Iba-kun would be a forward tracker, and Chijai-sen would most likely be a defender or safety member in charge of protecting the medic or keeping the captured shinobi under control. Naruto finished. Neither style, Naruto stated, is stronger. It purely depends on the person, and even then I am sure you two have different goals and skills that would make a comparison unfortunate for either of you. It would be better not to put yourself up against an unfair meter stick at all. Chijai-sen is Chijai-sen, and Kiba-kun is Kiba-kun. Both boys nodded at that, and Kiba scratched his cheek thoughtfully. What about my sister and me? Kiba asked. Han is pretty scary to be honest and got a buttload of more skills than me. Naruto refilled his cup of water and sipped it for a second. He didn't notice Sasuke zeroing in on the discussion, reminded of Itachi, however, Naruto did know that Hinata would be listening to this and worded it carefully. I do not have a sibling, truly, Naruto said, however I do have Shino and, more recently, Kono-kun and a few of the younger Aburames in the clan, though there aren't many. However, I would never limit myself to their experiences and successes. What they accomplished and have done perfectly or not is within their own circumstances. If I compared myself to Shino, I would have to take into account that he has been training and holding on to his Kakechu since birth, which means he has been training longer than I. Does that make him stronger than me? Perhaps. However, that does not mean I cannot match him or surpass him built on my own worth. Furthermore, I cannot judge myself against Kono-kun since as an older sibling, it is my duty to teach him everything I myself have learned, including tricks and skills I myself picked up while learning before him. Will he one day match me? It is my hope, otherwise I have wasted both our time. Will I let him surpass me on skills I've given him? No, I will do my hardest to be the superior in everything until one day he can surpass me on his own regards and talents. He sighed, it is often a thankless job, have no doubt. Kiba nodded, remembering the argument that had broken out between them earlier when Naruto had forcibly corrected the boy on a minor way of doing things and Konohamaru had thrown a tantrum. It had clearly exasperated the blonde, however he'd patiently let it run its course before demonstrating why setting the trap up like Konohamaru almost did was dangerous, even letting himself earn a sharp cut across his forearm. The brunette had been immediately apologetic and worried over his boss, though he quickly rebounded when Naruto ruffled his hair and called him a cute little minion. In the end, however, Naruto said with a fond and soft smile, "I love both of them as my sibling and would kill for them. I am fiercest when I am protecting. If I lost either I would not know what to do. I would probably go insane. So I should learn stuff that I can and blow Han out of the water that way," Kiba surmised awkwardly. Naruto giggled. "Kiba-kun, does your sister know any fuinjutsu?" he asked. "Nah, she's got a bunch of medical and veterinary training though, air stuff as well," Kiba answered, crossing his arms behind his head without fear of upsetting his partner since Akamaru was napping inside his jacket against his stomach, the puppy Ninkin having worn himself out with the bout. "Well then you have a skill she doesn't have," Naruto answered, "and she has skills you don't. Do you want to learn all of what she knows?" "Not really," Kiba replied with a grimace, "you gotta have smaller chakra reserves and fine control, and all that for medical stuff, plus the air crap is dead boring. So much paperwork," he complained. "I'm not even the heir and I gotta help out with that junk." Naruto giggled again. "Not really a good idea to compare yourself then, was his calm rejoinder. "Yeah, you're right," Kiba answered. "Can I make fighting and beating her a goal? You know, with the stuff we do share." "Of course," Naruto replied, "I always try to beat Shino when we are fighting using only taijutsu or during one of our joint self-study projects. In fact, I dangle catching more kinds of bugs in his face when we go on our catching excursions. It is quite funny to see him get in a huff and storm off to find a few more." A mischievous glint entered his eyes. "He never realizes to use his bug finding technique either, so it's all the more funny. It's the one Aburame technique I was allowed to learn since I was not a member of the clan. Of course, I use it to capture spiders, so I guess it is alright." "I knew you cheated," Shino said as he moved up and plopped down next to him. "Why?" "Because you got insects even I did not know about before." Naruto merely smirked at him, his eyes laughing. "You will remember to use that technique next time, nah?" Naruto replied, earning a glare and grumble. "Just fix me a plate, Imauto," Shino said. "I am not a girl," Naruto protested. "Whatever you say, Naru-chan," Kiba chuckled, earning an out-of-character squawk of indignation. "See if I fix you any of my beef ribs next time," Naruto pouted before his expression turned suspiciously blank. "I think I have Kono-kun's next assignment picked out." Kiba paled. Naruto, however, fixed 3 plates of food and got up. "I should take these over to the sensei. Hinata-chan, will you get the drinks?" The two got up and left, leaving a pale Kiba behind and the rest of the group, with the exception of Shino, snickering. "Naru-chan." "Oi, Naruto, wait. What do you mean next assignment?" "Naru-chan." "Naruto, oi. Naruto." Kiba called as he scrambled to his feet in a panic. "Naruto-sama." The whole group cracked up at that. "Kono-kun?" Shikamaru asked as he collapsed in a lazy pile next to Chimjai and accepted a pre-made plate of food Naruto had set aside for him. It was filled with easy-to-eat food. He appreciated the thought and hummed, mostly silently, with pleasure as he lazily chewed a bit of his onigiri. He was pleased to find smoked fish mixed inside. It had fish and seaweed, things were right in the world when he had a reasonably short fight and his favorite foods with time to cloud watch. He even got a show with lunch, watching in amusement as the other 2 members of Team 7 fell into trouble with their better half. "Naruto's minion," Shino said with slight apprehension. His best friend hadn't said anything about himself, so that most likely meant he'd take care of Shino himself. The bug user shivered a bit. "I wonder what sort of apology and bribe I shall need to get back on his good side," he thought out loud. Seeing Kiba's loud begging, the rest of the group figured it would have to be a good one. Sasuke turned over what Naruto said during their food break. His brother had always been amazing, however, he'd also been so cold and secretive. Was that because their experiences were different? He'd been born during the very end of the war and seen the QB attack the village, had that warped him? Or perhaps graduating early and killing so much when he advanced so fast. His father had always said he made the perfect uchiha, a weapon that was fast and sharp. But had his brother been happy like that? He had always assumed he had, he'd been so admired and talked about by his clan and outsiders. Now he wondered. He also thought about his own position and thought in life. Sure, he was the rookie of the year, something Naruto had ground into the dirt in their first ever real fight, but his brother had graduated at 5, before moving on to Chunin at 8 and becoming an Anbu member and finally a captain by the age of 13. He'd gone insane roughly a year later. The months leading up to it had been tense, his family taking on a dark thinking air, while Itachi had slowly retreated from them all. The only person he'd been close to within his immediate family had been. The light went on in Sasuke's head. He had only been close to me, and he only spared me, he thought, sinking onto his bed tiredly. The pacing had been wearying with all of the spars he'd done earlier. Fighting Naruto, Shino, and Kiba had been a workout, each one different and each one tough. My brother killed everyone he was ever close to, Sasuke wondered, except the person he probably cared for most. And that's me. He even killed the younger children and babies, the old folk as well, but never me. He told me to get strong and fight him. He buried his face in his hands and felt his mind swirl crazily as it tried to understand. I don't get it, what the hell was he doing? That isn't the way you prove yourself strong, that's the way you kill a bunch of people. If you wanted to prove yourself strong, you fought strong people. Naruto's voice chimed in his head, I cannot judge myself against Kono-kun, since as an older sibling, it is my duty to teach him everything I myself have learned, including tricks and skills I have picked up while learning alone. Will he one day match me? It is my hope, otherwise I have wasted both our time. Will I let him surpass me on skills I've given him? No, I will do my hardest to be the superior in everything until one day he can surpass me on his own regards and talents. It will often be a thankless job, have no doubt. Feeling tears pool in his eyes, Sasuke whispered, Nai-chan, what the hell are you trying to teach me? What kind of talents do you think I have that you don't? What are you doing, Nai-chan? Where are you? Am I wasting both of our times? Sasuke looked like hell the next few weeks, since he wasn't sleeping properly and pacing back and forth. The trios of rookie genin were meeting every Friday for spars and team building activities. Ino and Sakura had their arguments and fights, while the rest of the group spent the time actually working on building up their skills. They also noticed Sasuke wasn't looking well, which worried them. You're going to hit him with a stronger sedative this time, right? Shikamaru said, taking in Naruto's worried and narrowed eyes. The bandana-wearing boy gave the slightest of head nods, and the shadow user rolled onto his back in relief. He should be out for an hour this way, Naruto whispered softly, it will not do much in the space of a week, but it will hopefully keep him from fully collapsing. A little sleep and food that is home-cooked should help. Naruto and Hinata both had started packing massive lunches for the group of rookie genin, spending some of their mission earnings that way. The rest of the teams chipped in of course, although they refused to allow either Ino or Sakura to cook since both pretty much burned water. Both girls' constant bickering was a source of consternation and irritation to their fellows as well. Naruto saw Kurenai-sensei motioning him over and he got up, leaving his extra supplies behind. The kakute he was wearing this time, along with the threads and wire, were covered in a sedative that would make Sasuke fall into a deep but short healing sleep. Taking his stance, Naruto studied his friend worriedly. Over the last month and a half the boy had grown more and more visibly gaunt. Nothing seemed to help and Naruto had resorted to sporadic visits to the other male's apartment to make sure he was eating, bringing food over at least 3 times a week. He would then sit there and stare at the last uchiha until he ate it all, be it in one sitting or several, or mildly lacing it with a sedative that would make the weary boy nap for at least an hour. Naruto wasn't sure if the boy ever slept outside those times by the looks of things. The fight went swiftly, Naruto not bothering to set up his webs or traps and went straight for the kill, something his Jounin sensei and Sasuke's were thankful for. He'd cleared it with both before he brought the heavier sleeping agent and had been thanked by Kurenai for doing so. The tired boy barely withstood the fast barrage and collapsed into Naruto's arms as he fell into a dreamless sleep. Naruto frowned slightly and shifted him immediately into a fireman carry and brought him carefully over to where the others were waiting with the packed lunches, picnic blanket, and items. Shino, get the other blankets out please, he said, and his best friend swiftly opened his sealed scroll, popping out the spares he'd brought. Hinata took them and laid them out before accepting another bundled one from Shino and placing it like a pillow at the top. With some help from Chimjai, Naruto laid the boy out and covered him. A swift check of his pulse and a peek under his eyelids, Naruto made sure the boy was truly out and sat back with a sigh of relief. He went down pretty quickly, Kiba said, gnawing on his lower lip, he okay? Yes, Naruto sighed, just exhausted. Ino and Sakura fretted from a distance, arguing and fighting before earning a sharp glare from all those around Sasuke. Both girls had been forcibly warned off from trying anything when their object of affection was put to sleep by Naruto the first 2 times. The fact that they even tried to get close to him while he was indisposed disgusted most of the boys, while both Hinata and Naruto had been infuriated. The matches between Naruto and Hinata since then, with both girls, had been bloody. With Naruto going so far as to draw his kunai immediately and trap both girls at separate times in sharp, painful serrated wire before spitting in disgust at them, an obvious and crude sign from the normally overly polite male that proved just how distasteful he found them both to be. Hinata, on the other hand, had just beaten them into a pulp after closing off most of their tenketsu in the most painful manner possible. Even more so, in the past 2 weeks all of Team 7 and Team 10, along with Hinata, had formed a protective wall against Sakura and Ino for Sasuke. Both girls, however, seemed to find it offensive, which led to fights and bouts between all of those affected that did not seem to pound a relatively simple fact into either fangirl's head. Leave Uchiha Sasuke alone. Simple, yes, but ignored by both of the future Mrs. Uchiha Sasuke wannabes. Time for lunch. Chimjai asked as he tried to prevent a fight from breaking out between Naruto, Hinata and one of the other girls. Hinata nodded, though she watched sharply as she fetched it. Naruto stayed where he was and kept watch over the pale boy. What did you fix this time, Naru? Kiba asked as he sat down. The sensei early ate with them, having decided to go out for their lunches instead of eating the prepared ones. They used this time as a break for the teams so they could socialize without worry of adults overhearing things. I did the main dishes this time, since you guys liked Hinata-chan's sides better last time, Naruto replied as he opened the first of 4 large family-style bento boxes. Bah, Chimjai said with his mouth opening. You made sure to fix a lot of tomato dishes this time, huh? Better to make sure Sasuke-san eats, Naruto answered. We have chicken and tomato curry sauce, mixed tempura heavy on everything, stuffed peppers and tomatoes, beef with stewed vegetables with extra stewed tomatoes on the side, pork and chicken tonkatsu, garlic chicken, sesame chicken, smoked fish, fried calamari, grilled tofu in teriyaki sauce, and tofu cooked in soy sauce with ginger, lemon, and bunching onion. Chimjai salivated and even Shikamaru whistled in appreciation as each level was revealed. Hinata-chan? Naruto asked. She nodded and started opening her own up. Besides today we have steamed and fried rice with egg and vegetables, tamagoyaki, steamed and fried dumplings of both the vegetable and meat kind, meat buns, egg custards, cool and spicy pickles, vegetable and chicken sushi, yakisoba with chicken and vegetables, mixed onigiri, miso soup, hot and sour soup, soup with beef and shrimp balls, finger sandwiches, mini octopus sausages. Salad with ginger sauce, salad with honey mustard sauce, and fried sweet and salty potatoes. Chimjai cried from joy. We collaborated on the dessert, Naruto said as he retrieved the thermoses of tea and soup. Bottles of water and juice kept cold were pulled out as well. The second to last box was opened and the boys stared in amazement. We did a cookie assortment with a mix of small cakes, sweetbreads, and some saltier snacks. We also made some treats, Naruto patted the extra container, for later. I love you, Chimjai said in a daze, his chips dropping, and his hands clutching one of each of Naruto's and Hinata's in a fierce and desperate grip. Please marry me. Naruto and Hinata both blushed. Omen, Chimjai-san, Naruto said gently retrieving his hand, but I do not think either Hinata-chan or I are your type. We can give your future wife cooking lessons when you get engaged. The boy brightened and tears leaked out of his eyes. Promise? He begged. The two chefs exchanged a glance and nodded. Promise. Sasuke woke up to the sound of fighting and was disorientated for a moment. He smelled food next, and his stomach growled loudly to his embarrassment. He'd eaten all of the leftovers from the last time Naruto had visited and hadn't had anything to eat this morning or the previous night. Sleep well? A soft and familiar voice asked and he glanced up at Naruto who'd pulled down his mask for once and was looking him over worriedly. Hinata was sitting next to him and looked just as anxious. She turned away, going back to the food they had lain out near him and began fixing a plate for him. It was okay, Sasuke replied sitting up slowly and didn't begrudge the help he got from Naruto as he finally got in an upright position. It was better sleep than I've gotten all week. I'm worried about you, Naruto said, finally voicing the whole group's concerns. We're worried about you. Sasuke nodded tiredly, remembering the strained smiles and sneaking glances he'd gotten in the past weeks from them all. He also thought of the angry fights that had happened between Naruto, Hinata, Ino and Sakura, the first two protecting him when he was less aware. Even the other boys had taken him up, tucking him between Shino and Chimjai for meals or Kiba walking him home, since they happened to live in the same direction, never mind it was 20 minutes out of his way. Shikamaru had once accidentally captured the two girls in his shadow during practice when they had rushed over to comfort him after a loss at the hands of the boy. It made him feel guilty and he couldn't meet the blue or lavender eyes of his friends. Sorry, he replied, I've got a bunch of things on my mind. I keep forgetting to eat. He blamed his exhaustion on how honest he was being. Naruto frowned slightly but merely took the plate of food from Hinata's hand along with the chopsticks and put it in Sasuke's lap. Eat something and then we'll talk, Naruto said. Taking the bowl of soup from Hinata next and holding it in his hands as the boy started eating. His drowsiness slowly wore off and he grew more voracious as he ate. This is good, he said as he finished more than 2/3 of it and accepted the soup, scooping up the little meatballs and broth hungrily. The two cooks glanced at each other in relief. All of the food made had been done so it was easily digestible and gentle on the stomach. The slightly weakened boy had gotten none of the heavier fried foods, instead cutting into the curry and stuffed tomato with relish. The tofu was placed on his plate as well, since it was easy to swallow being naturally soft. The different spices would keep his stomach easy and fight off any illness that may approach. Pouring him a cup of slightly medicinal green tea with honey, Naruto handed it to the boy before taking the mostly empty plate and refilling it. The emptied soup bowl was offered to Hinata, who refilled it as well. "We're glad you're eating," Hinata said. "Yo, you've gotten so thin." Sasuke flushed and hid his face slightly by moving more food into his mouth. "I don't cook as well as you two," he admitted. The food he made was often bland and unappetizing. Naruto and Hinata glanced at each other in silent communication. "You could come over to my place for dinner sometimes if you wish, Sasuke-san," Naruto offered. Sasuke glanced up in surprise. "Don't you eat with the Aburames?" The other boy replied. "Not always, merely on occasion," Naruto answered. "I live on their compound but have a house of my own. Since becoming a genin I have taken to cooking meals for merely myself and sometimes Shino. I would be glad to have your company or fix you a meal and have you come by and pick it up," he offered. Sasuke nodded slowly and ate some more of the food. I already make too much food for myself at lunch, so you could share mine if you want, Sasuke-kun," Hinata said. "I'd be glad to eat with you." "I don't want to be too much a bother," Sasuke said lowly, his chopsticks now playing with his food. "A friend and comrade is never a bother," Shino said, coming over. "My mother would be fine with you living with us forever if it meant you were well." The boy flushed. "Sakyaba-san always wanted more children," Naruto said with a grin. "Shut it," Sasuke said, comforted by the teasing. "I'll come by tonight," he said, thrusting the plate at Naruto. "More please." Hi, the blonde said. "We have plenty." Smiling slightly at the three, Sasuke couldn't help but be grateful. Sasuke knocked on the door and it opened to a jacketless Shino. "Hey," he said awkwardly. It was a bit weird to see the other boy without his large coat and dressed merely in a long-sleeve mesh shirt over a sleeveless turtleneck muscle shirt with matching shorts. The small holes in his arms reminded the future Sharingan user that the Kakashi lived in him, and he felt a shiver of morbid curiosity as he wondered if the bug user felt the insects move around. "Welcome, please come in," Shino said, stepping back. Sasuke nodded and slipped his shoes off before stepping into the guest slippers waiting in a neat row, shutting the door behind him. The hallway was fairly short and they entered the living room almost immediately. "Sorry about the door, Sasuke-san," Shino, Naruto said from another room. Sasuke glanced at Shino in question. "Kitchen," he said in answer to the unspoken question. "Ah," Sasuke said. "Dinner will be soon, Shino, go wash up," Naruto called out from the kitchen. "Please wait just another moment or two, Sasuke-san, I'll be finished soon." "No need to rush," Sasuke replied, shifting nervously. Shino nodded to the last uchiha before he shuffled down the hall, and Sasuke heard the sound of a faucet being turned on, surmising the other boy was washing his hands. Left alone, he looked around and over the different shelves and pictures. There were two floor-to-ceiling bookcases with a long one between them that stopped at his waist, so the curtained window wasn't blocked. Plants rested atop it, and a collection of books, scrolls, and knickknacks filled the empty spaces of the shelves. He looked the books over, a rather random collection of fiction and encyclopedias as well as training manuals, before wandering over to a wall where a small altar waited. There was no picture, but the incense was clearly used and burned daily. Pausing, he offered a quiet prayer to his friend's family, knowing he was an orphan as well. 2 couches, a corner table and a coffee table on top of a soft rug finished the room. He heard Shino finish up in the bathroom and stopped to study a rather nice woodblock print, slightly embarrassed over the praying. "Dinner?" Naruto called, and Shino re-entered the room escorting the shorter boy into the kitchen, where Naruto stood humming as he finished setting the table. He glanced up and smiled in welcome, and Sasuke realized the other boy had removed his bandana and let his hair down, though pulled back in a low ponytail. The long blonde hair curled after being pinned for so long, and the usual mask was discarded, leaving the whisker marks bare. Dressed in a loose white shirt that had its long sleeves folded up to his elbows and in casual black pants, he looked relaxed. "Hey," Sasuke said, taking a seat. "Glad you could make it," Naruto replied and set down one of 2 bowls he carried. Shino gave his friend a friendly pat on the shoulder before sitting as well. Naruto carried over the last bowl, his own, and took a seat. Picking up their chopsticks, they said a quick itadakimasu and dug in. They ate fish that was poached before being served in a mild sauce with pickles, steamed rice, fried and stewed tomatoes, a simple salad, and a winter melon soup. Dessert was a flaky and mild-tasting group of almond cookies that were served with a side of whipped cream and fresh berries. "Thank you for the meal," Sasuke said after his second helping. The food filled him easily, and he knew he'd eaten the lion's portion of the tomatoes, though neither of his meal partners complained. "Would you like some more tea?" Naruto asked as he got up and started collecting the empty platters. He set them in the sink and took Shino's bowl for another serving of the soup. He came back and set it next to his friend before collecting both his own and Sasuke's plates. I'm fine, Sasuke said, and Naruto nodded before removing it and started filling the sink with hot water to soak the dishes to make them easier to clean. I had some extra food for you take back when you leave, Naruto said as he finished filling the sink and returned with a refilled teapot. Shino finished his soup and took his own dishes to the sink, leaving his cup behind to be refilled. The dessert still sat out in the middle, and Naruto picked up a cookie before covering it with a little whipped cream and a slice of strawberry before biting down. Thanks, Sasuke said. He was exceedingly grateful. Don't mention it, Naruto said waving off the gratitude. Half the time I drag Shino over to eat with me since I despise cooking for myself alone. The other half my mother drags him over to our house and cooks with him there, Shino said. Breakfast is always at mine though. Your mother wouldn't have it any other way, Naruto replied. You're correct in that. Shino conceded. A Kakashi fluttered in, and Shino held up his finger to land one before listening to it and sighing. I have to go, he said apologetically, one of the elders has stopped by and is demanding to speak with my father and his heir over some triviality. He stood and stated, I will see you both tomorrow. Good night. They answered it with their own farewells and watched as he left. Naruto gestured with the teapot and Sasuke held out his cup accepting the fragrant tea before sipping it quietly with his dinner mate. What is it that has you so stressed out? Naruto finally asked several minutes later. Is there any way I can help? I was thinking about my brother. Sasuke said after a few moments. Your brother? Yes, the night he murdered everyone and left he spared me and told me to become stronger. Sasuke stated dully, fiddling with his cup. Naruto paused as he was about to sip, thinking quietly before frowning. Do you feel like you're becoming stronger? Naruto finally questioned. I have no idea, Sasuke admitted tiredly, his eyes filled with pain and confusion. I lost to you in a fight and… Don't compare me to you, Sasuke-san, Naruto said sharply. I'm not trained to be anything less than a killer and a trap artist, something you're not used to fighting against. If it had been straight to jutsu we would have been evenly matched. The only problem you had was that you didn't think far enough ahead to win. You were too focused on your long-term goal instead of your intermediate steps. Intermediate steps? Sasuke repeated, curious. Naruto got up and fetched his bingo book, a gift from Shibi for his birthday last year. It wasn't the most recent version, but it would do in learning the larger threats. He opened it and went through the pages until he found who he was looking for. He handed the book to Sasuke and took his seat once more. That is your brother, yes? Naruto said pointing at the old ninja photo on the top. Sasuke nodded stiffly as he stared at the familiar face. All of that information, Naruto ran a finger down the side of the page, Sasuke's black eyes following it, is what the bookmakers know he is capable of. This book is not the most recent I'll admit, however it does give a shinobi an idea of what one is faced with when they confront him. Sasuke nodded as he read about his brother. It was impressive and disheartening to say the least. He is the mountain you wish to surmount, correct? Naruto asked. Sasuke nodded dumbly once more. Then here is the things you need to know how to defeat, to be stronger in or strong enough to fight against. The defeat. Stronger in. Sasuke repeated. Gain jutsu and ninjutsu appeared to be very high, and there were lists of known attacks and skills the older Uchiha had demonstrated. Everything an S-class shinobi should and would know. Naruto touched his elbow kindly attracting his eyes and met them firmly. I don't know your reasons for fighting him, nor why he made your life so difficult, Naruto stated, however, he was once a strong leaf shinobi, and while here in Konoha you have many people who are willing and able to teach you. People who knew him formally and once served with him, people who knew him as a shinobi first and foremost. No doubt the village that raised him can help you defeat him. Will I be wasting our time? Sasuke asked. Naruto recognized the earlier conversation and sighed. It appeared that it was partially his fault that the black-haired boy's health was so rocky the past few weeks, even with his immediate mother-hen routine that had followed. I cannot tell you that, Naruto replied, that is something you and your brother will have to discern. How will I be able to tell if I'm strong enough? Sasuke asked. His gaze turned more than a little desperate as it met the unflinching and kind one of his fellow genin. When you feel confident enough to know the next time you face him, it will be without fear and with pride in who you are, Naruto answered. How do you know? It was what I asked my own teacher when she started teaching me. I wanted to know when people would recognize me for who I was rather than what they expected. Sasuke nodded and looked down at the book. I feel so angry towards him at times, he confessed, I hate him so much. Naruto nodded, his hand tightening on the other boy's arm in silent compassion. I also love him and want him to acknowledge me, Sasuke whispered. That's what all good brothers feel, I think, Naruto stated kindly, but don't make him your life, Sasuke-san, Naruto sternly said, you're worth much more than that. Sasuke nodded. Giving the boy's arm a pat, Naruto glanced at the clock and frowned. It was late and he didn't think the boy was in any shape to go home. Why don't you stay the night, Naruto offered, you can have breakfast with me in the morning, I'll just get the guest food out. Sasuke jolted and glanced at the time as well before giving in. He was in no mood to trek halfway across the village to return to an empty apartment. Smiling at the blonde he said, that would be great, thank you. Kiba was a bit surprised when he saw Shino, Naruto and Sasuke walking together the next morning, before separating to meet up with their respective teams. What was up with that? He asked when he and Akamaru met up with the duo. Sasuke looked much rested and was carrying a large package of food in his free hand, the boy talking easily with Naruto and Shino. Sasuke slept over last night after dinner, Naruto answered. We got to talking until late and he was not up to leaving for the night. Kiba nodded. What do you think we'll be doing today? For missions? Kiba asked. We qualify for a C rank now, right? It's been 2 months and we've done what, 20 missions? If I remember right, we've done 16 in all, Shino responded. 2 a week for 8 weeks, correct? Correct. Their Jounin sensei said, appearing suddenly, startling Akamaru and Shino's Kakechu. The beetles instantly covered the Jounin, and Shino had a hard time recalling them, while Akamaru knocked the man over with a headbutt to the upper leg. Kiba remarked, shaking his head as he gently brushed a few stray beetles off of their sensei, Akamaru having already recovered from the scare and was currently whimpering an apology next to him. Naruto merely sighed and fished out a ration bar which he handed to the older shinobi. Forgot you don't do startled well, Kakashi said sheepishly. Ninja in general don't do startled well, hot Aki-sensei, Shino said miffed. His bugs joined him once more and he rolled his eyes at the man. Well, we need to head off to the tower and get our mission, Kakashi stated. Will we be doing our first C rank today, hot Aki-sensei? Naruto asked. Do you want to do one? Kakashi queried, studying all his little genins' faces. I guess so, Kiba replied, it's the next step in being a shinobi, right? Naruto nodded at this, and Shino merely glanced dismissively at him, holding a grudge. Well, let's ask the Hokage and see just what he has and make a decision then. It would be good practice with training outside of the village and working a different type of mission. Kakashi admitted. After all, he was getting a bit bored with the never-ending chores, even if the team allowed him to read his book now while they worked. Akamaru could use the experience of working on different terrain for a long period and he could introduce his own summons that way. Maybe even fake a death around some enemies to see how they handle themselves without an immediate authority figure. I won't make any promises, Kakashi specified firmly. I might just beg for one though. Really, 2 months of Torah has started to grate on my nerves. He thought darkly though. Ah, Team 7, the Hokage said in way of greeting when they joined him, teammate was standing there as well. Come for a mission. The Torah one recently came in and you're the best team at catching her, you even have the new catch time record of 1 hour and 15 minutes. The entire team looked at him blankly before the genin, as one glared at their lazy sensei. He meanwhile blinked before twitching violently. Right, we'll have to decline that, Hokage, sir, Kakashi said. He, though most likely the cat, wouldn't survive another mission of finding it, his ninkin would come out this time, and Buru would accidentally eat the little menace, we were hoping to test our skill at a C rank. Kurenai blinked in surprise, and her own genin perked up in interest. A C rank, eh? The Hokage said, rubbing his chin thoughtfully. You have completed the requirements, right? We've done a total of 16 missions, and this is the start of our 9th week together as a team, Kakashi replied. The Hokage nodded. Isn't that a little dangerous? Haruka asked worriedly. You could be sent on a hazardous mission outside of the village. It is dangerous in the village, Haruka-sensei, Naruto replied, desperate enough to be forward. Of their 16 missions, 9 of them had been the Torah catching one, no one on the team wanted to do it again, Shino and I got pulled into that B rank of yours, remember? We can handle it, and sensei is an elite jounin. The Chunin visibly wilted but nodded. Ah, right, you two never got paid for that, the Sandaime remembered suddenly. Well, come back to me after you finish your C rank, and we'll sort that out. The duo nodded. Sir, if Team 7 is undergoing their first C rank, I would like to nominate my team for one as well, Kurenai stated. This would be a good test and way of introducing Sakura to the dirtier side of being a shinobi, their mission count of 12 would allow for it. I thought you were having problems with Sarutobi made a circling gesture with his hand. Kurenai nodded and they eyed the pink-haired genin who hunched slightly at the scrutiny. I'm sure my genin will act with all professionalism when we're with a client, right? She gave Sakura a look. Right, the pink-haired girl said weakly. The inner Sakura stopped in mid-scream and huddled behind a mental barrier. After 2 months of reformed tutelage, Sakura had a better grasp on jutsu and was learning some gain jutsu that would work with her low reserves and fine control. She still wasn't as advanced as her teammates, she wasn't as motivated for one, but she wouldn't roll over and die like before. Which had to stand for something, right? The Hokage ran a thoughtful hand over his chin before nodding. I've gotten a bit of a bad feeling over one of the missions and was going to send a team of Chunin, however 2 teams of genin with their instructors should serve as well. The Hokage said, pulling out a mission scroll and holding it out to Kakashi, who took it. Team 7, Team 8, your mission is to serve as bodyguards for one Tizuna the Builder on his return to Wave. Your mission specifics are in the roll while the client is outside. Please send him in. The Hokage addressed to the Chunin closest to the door, who immediately complied. A drunkard of a man came in a few moments later and eyed them in disinterest. "They're my bodyguards." He snorted before taking another drink from his flask. "You don't look all that mature." His gaze landed on Sakura, especially that flat one. The girl's mouth dropped open in outrage. "I assure you," the Hokage interrupted as Kurenai's hand came down firmly on her genin's shoulder as an irritated tic developing on her face. "My shinobi are fully capable. However, if you're that doubtful, I can give you back your deposit and let you return on your own." The man paled slightly at this and shook his head before hiding his scared frown behind another swig. "I'll take him," he grunted. "Meet me at the main gate at 7 tomorrow, we'll leave then. I ain't as fast as you little brats either, so prepare to sleep outside a few nights. It's a month-long mission." Naruto pinched Kiba's hand to keep him from responding and smiled professionally at them. "Are you sure that's not too early for you, sir?" Naruto asked. "We wouldn't want someone of your delicate sensibilities and age to be wearied by our travel if we can avoid it." An annoyed look crossed Tizuna's face. "I can handle it, shorty," he replied. "If I complain or if I'm late for meeting you tomorrow, I'll pay extra. For each complaint too." "If you say so, sir," Naruto said innocently. "We'll see you tomorrow, 7 on the dot." The man grunted and left. "Extra money?" Shino said when the man was out of hearing distance. "Easy money," Naruto stated. Their teammates stared at the duo as they smirked behind their face covers. "If we're going to put up with a nasty attitude, then we should be so sweet the man gets a toothache." "You scare me sometimes," Kiba stated. "I'm still trying to figure out if that's a good thing or not." Teammate didn't even know what to say. The 2 teams, genin, even Sakura, convened on Ichiraku's for lunch. "To our first C rank," Naruto said with a smile before ordering his first bowl of miso ramen with pork fillet. "I wonder if we'll get to fight at all," Kiba pondered before placing an order of beef with 2 servings of beef ribs. "If it goes as badly as all first C ranks, it is possible." Shino ordered his vegetable ramen and gyoza. "What do you mean?" Sasuke asked with a frown. He got a bowl of pork ramen with deep-fried tomatoes on the side. He was making sure to eat more now that he and Naruto had last night's talk. Hinata, sitting quietly next to him, ordered seafood ramen with a side order of fried calamari. Sakura gave in and got a shrimp tempura one with fish broth. "C ranks aren't that dangerous, right?" Sakura asked. "How can they go wrong?" The group all stared at her. "You do know about mid-mission reclassification, right?" Naruto asked bluntly. Sakura shook her head. "Missions sometimes, due to client funding, ignorance or unknown external factors, can move up or move down. The reason most seem to think there is a curse on the first C rank is because of all mission levels, C ranks are the ones with the most likelihood to go up in rank." "How do you know?" Sakura asked, interest piqued. "Research," Naruto stated. "After Shino and I heard about the curse, we went to the mission release office and asked around. Iruka-sensei was there and explained it to us. C ranks are the lowest rank anyone can ask for anything outside of Konoha. It is also the heading that most single and non-VIP persons apply for when asking for guards. However, that can lead to a misclassification. One should always operate on a guard mission with the idea that it can go wrong, since anything can happen on a mission. C ranks, and the first C rank curse, are some of the first real signs to see if one is ready to be a chunin or not. It is usually these missions that tell a sensei if their genin are ready to take on harder training. So we do well and sensei may finally move us off of the damn chakra basics." Kiba queried as he spoke around a mouthful of noodles. He was more hands-on in his fighting style, but he did want to learn some damn ninjutsu. "Do not speak with your mouth full, but yes," Naruto answered. C ranks, as said by Iruka-sensei, test teamwork, individual leadership, and adaptation to unforeseen circumstances. He said on his first C rank, it was a delivery, he and his team faced a bridge collapse due to a nearby dam overflowing and a group of bandits, making it easily a B rank mission due to length and difficulty. The only one worse than that was the one that made him switch from a field agent to an instructor at the academy. "How was it worse?" Kiba asked, the whole group staring at the suddenly quieter Naruto. 2 of his teammates died and the third was permanently disabled. He said it went from C to S class so fast that they weren't able to retreat quickly enough. Only he and his commanding officer got out intact. Shino stated. He didn't want to be in the field anymore after that, so he took up a job as an instructor. "Let's pray nothing like that happens on our trip," Naruto said quietly. "I don't know how I'd handle anyone dying on our mission." Here, Kiba said before glancing at the number of Naruto's bowls. Hey. How are you on your fourth bowl already? Kiba wasn't even on his second. Talking makes me hungry, Naruto said mildly. How are you even eating with your mask on? Kiba demanded. I'm not sure if you'd be able to understand, Naruto remarked mildly. His teammate's mouth dropped open. Did you just call me dumb? I'm sure Akamaru agrees with me, do you think he'd understand Akamaru? Naruto asked. The dog yipped in what sounded like an agreement. Boy. Don't call me dumb. Kiba protested. You're supposed to be on my side, Akamaru. Naruto merely fed the dog a piece of his pork. Don't bribe, Akamaru. Kiba snapped. Bribe? I'm just rewarding him for being so smart. Naruto replied easily. Where's mine then? Kiba protested. You haven't earned it yet. You just called me dumb again. The rest of the genin laughed as Naruto ordered his fifth bowl, the dark air dissipating. Naruto shrugged on his jacket before pulling on his shoes. He met Shino outside as he stepped out waving goodbye to his parents. Take care you two. Saki called out. Look out for each other. Naruto offered a bow before the two jogged away. No backpack? Shino asked adjusting his own. Sealing scrolls, his best friend replied. An acceptable idea, Shino admitted, mentally cursing his own thoughtlessness. He lived with a near two Fuinjutsu user, why hadn't he thought to borrow some or even buy a few from them? Overexcited nerves probably, he thought miserably, and made a note to ask for some when they got back. They met with teammate at the gate and exchanged greetings before moving away slightly to wait for their own final members. Moments later Kiba came jogging up, Akamaru riding on his head as usual. Running late? Naruto asked. Sorry about that, Ma and Hanani had one last nag to get in before I left, Kiba said before looking at Naruto in confusion. No backpack. He adjusted his own. Sealing scrolls, Naruto replied for the second time that morning. Bastard, Kiba cursed before smacking himself in the face for his own thoughtlessness. You're going to show me how to do tha next, right? The last 2 months Kiba had taken to learning Fuinjutsu from the more experienced Naruto. Eventually both of them would need a more advanced teacher, but Kiba and Naruto were satisfied to learn from scrolls and books for now. Perhaps, Naruto shot back sweetly, have you gotten the explosives down yet? I can everything up to a middle grade, Kiba replied grumpily. Naruto hummed thinking it over. Get it up to high and I'll teach you. Making storage scrolls are trickier after all, Naruto responded. Great, Kiba said before glancing around. Kakashi-sensei isn't here yet. He's always late, his two teammates chorused. Right, Kiba said with a yawn. Got anything to eat? Naruto rolled his eyes and ignored him in favor of greeting and catching Akamaru as he leapt into the boy's arms. The dog still wore the gifted bandana, but a vest of black had been added with the Inuzuka red triangular fang on the back, a suggestion to facilitate in hiding his white coat. The outfit was similar to the ones Kakashi's own Ninken, who they'd met after the 4th Tora mission for advice, wore though it was in different colors. I've got a treat for you Akamaru, Naruto said fishing out a piece of dried pig's ear. The dog perked up and accepted it easily, quickly gnawing on it with relish. You like Akamaru better than me, Kiba said with a grumble. He's cuter, Naruto replied. Kiba's jaw dropped open and teammates stared in amazement at the brutal put-down before having to hide their sudden onset of hysterics. Team 7 was always funny to listen to. So you do like him better, Kiba verbally protested. Hinata hid a giggle behind a hand and even Sasuke couldn't help but smirk. Sakura and Kurenai both had to look away to hide their suddenly pink faces as they pressed their lips together to keep their chuckles in. Oh hush, Naruto said, you should be happy your partner is such a stud. Maybe Akamaru can give you some tips. Akamaru yipped something and Kiba turned an embarrassed red. Bastard. He yelled at the dog, who merely gave a doggy smirk. Hello team, Kakashi said appearing with a shushin. He glanced at Akamaru and smiled. Hello Akamaru. My whole team likes Akamaru better than me. Kiba growled. How can they like you better than me? Akamaru merely gnawed on his pig ear and cuddled into Naruto happily. He's quieter, Shino stated. Shino? Kiba said shocked. Here, Kiba, Naruto pulled out a packed breakfast. For your stomach, the boy grinned and ripped into it excitedly. He shoved a bun into his mouth and groaned in satisfaction. This has meat. He said excitedly and Naruto chuckled. Yay for beef. So, are you ready to go? Kakashi asked Kurenai. Yes. The client isn't here yet though, Kurenai stated, her own team standing slightly off to the side and finally getting a hold of themselves to nod seriously back. Probably had to pick up extra sake, Sakura growled petulantly. I'm here, their client said as he hobbled up, drinking from a new bottle. Naruto pulled out a watch and nodded to Shino who made a note. I got my sake and I'm good to go. Okay, Kakashi said knowing his genin were already adding up their tips. Kurenai-san and her team will be in charge of protecting you while my team and I will take point and forward guard. Shino, Kiba, Akamaru. I need you to scout ahead. Naruto, will you be fine alone with taking point if I take rearguard? The blonde glanced at him and nodded. Kakashi nodded back and ordered briskly, let's go. The end. So how was this part? I hope you like it. And if you like it, share this part with your friends and like the video too. And don't forget to subscribe our channel for daily awesome fanfiction. Okay, it's time for me to go. Bye bye.